You're listening to KZZU on 97.FM Pullman. We are a broadcast service of the ASWSU. The views and opinions of this program do not reflect our views of KZUU Radio, the ASWSU, or Washington State University. Please enjoy. This is another episode of Ponder Cruise hosted by me, Eli. I'm here with my homie. Introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm Owen Harris. We've known each other for probably about 6 months now, met through film club and stuff, and just really grateful to you for having me on this, so thanks, man.
Oh, and the pleasure is mine. I'm excited for this one. So, how's your week been, man? What's been new?
It's been good, man. Just seeing familiar faces here and there as we go around campus and stuff, but it's been good. Classes are heating up, I think, for everyone around campus here, so I've just been enjoying life, man. How about you?
Man, it's been good. I feel like stuff's been slow. Like, I don't know what it is, but during COVID, everything seems so fast-paced. Like, the news was changing so quickly, and, everyone just seemed, like, hectic.
Totally.
And I feel like we're finally, like, going back, I guess, but it feels weird because everything, like, obviously there's stuff going on. Obviously there's the war that just happened, and
yes.
And the other war that's still happening.
Right, yeah.
But it doesn't feel like new anymore. It doesn't feel like it's not like this crazy, like, oh my god, the world is just completely different than I thought it was going to be.
Absolutely.
Given the future.
For you, is that kind of more of there's a return to form? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like, we're coming back to a pre-COVID kind of state of things? Is that what you're alluding to?
I guess. I mean, it's hard to remember what it was like before COVID. It's been 4 years now,
Right. That's hard to believe. That's a shock, right?
We're little kids, like, what?
Just coming out of high school or something like that? It's so wild. Yeah.
Everything was wild anyways, but...
It's so wild to think about. We've got so much that's... stuff is always happening, right? There's always something that's going to occur in life and in the world that's going to make it fresh and new, and that's a good thing because that's life, right? But it's also like, oh my goodness, what's happening? You know what I mean?
All right, so Owen, what's fresh in 2023? Like, I can't... Oh, man. What's fresh right now?
Well, I think personally, as someone who's trying to graduate from Washington State right now,
for sure.
Like there's that side of things where it's just like, I'm trying to get my ducks in a row, and that's, personally that's fresh. But I think as far as just kind of worldly, you allude to we're coming out of COVID, like, that's something that we don't hear mentioned on the daily anymore. That's something that's like, we're out of that, it's no longer a national emergency. It's like, okay, that's crazy. So what are we focusing on? What are we giving our time to? You allude to like war and stuff, but I think there's a lot of positive things too. And like, there's plenty of good memes to ingest, and there's a whole bunch,
Why do you think memes were always this popular? Or do you think that's like a new phenomenon?
I think they've moved to a point of ubiquity, don't you think? Where it's just like everyone has the ability to ingest them. It's not niche.
Yeah.
It's like it's everyone, everyone has a format or something they can point to and be like, oh yeah, I get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It used to be more of an age gap, but like now there's not even that. I remember for a while, it doesn't get me as much anymore, but like I work at this bar.
Okay.
And like these like dudes will come in and they're like fucking like 50 years old, bro. They're like 50, they're like 40 or like whatever, and they're quoting these memes that like I see on like Instagram or like whatever. I just think are like they're hilarious, but
yes,
I would never expect these people to like know those references.
Right. No, exactly.
And it was blowing my mind for a while, but now I'm getting used to it. Like, okay, we're all looking at the same thing apparently.
Well, it's so addictive, right? It's just like
insane.
You can pick it up, and then it's just like you can lose yourself for like 3 hours straight. You know what I mean? There's something about it where it's just like, it's designed to be consumed by like everyone, which is crazy. And of course, we're all going to start looking at the same stuff and like referencing the same things, which is wild to me.
Just because it pulls you in. It's pulling everyone in.
It's like a
moth lamp.
It's a freaking psyop, bro. No, it's wild. It's been, as far as newness, I think, it's always cool to see new memes, as for sure, but like new art and new sports and new, drama in celebrity fields, and just, I mean, we talk film a bunch, before and after shows or whatever it is, and it's like that's something that's always changing, like artistic format. And I think that's probably my biggest frame of reference for stuff, is someone who like makes music and thinks about film a lot, is like that, like what's changing in those fields. And there's always something new to think about with that kind of thing.
What kind of new styles have you been into recently? Like you found?
Well, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but there was I think it was Spike Lee's most recent movie is Black Klansman. That one.
Yeah, I never saw that. But
okay,
I forgot that was a movie.
It's on Netflix right now. You should get around to it because you dig
good.
it. It's fantastic. And especially with this conversation of like, hey, what's new in the world and world events? It's like it's so relevant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, but it's also, a lot of, you can try to make like a film that has like some sort of motif or purpose around it, like for like social justice, or like you're trying to bring attention to an issue, and that can be done in like a really cheesy way, like shoehorned into like a superhero film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that doesn't always fit. It's always, the purpose, can be appreciated, but it doesn't always fit. What Spike Lee does is just so unique, and it's almost like his Django Unchained. It's so poignant, and so, but it's also it's just a good story. You know what I mean? It's so fun. It's so good.
I gotta see that, bro. I gotta watch it.
Do it.
What movie do you think it's similar to? What would you compare it to?
Well, I mean, again, it's probably Spike Lee's Django Unchained, and
Django Unchained.
Yeah.
Of course.
No, you're good.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's such an enjoyable watch. Have you seen any other Spike Lee stuff?
No, I don't think I've seen any of his movies, unless I watched it. Didn't know.
No, for sure.
What else has he made?
The other ones I've seen and enjoyed are he made this movie called The Inside Man, and it's got Clive Owen and Denzel Washington. I think Willem Dafoe is in that, and Jodie Foster. And so it's an absolute. Wow. It's just a stacked cast, but it's a bank robbery movie.
Okay.
Yeah. And then also She's Gotta Have It, which Spike Lee's in that, and for the life of me, I couldn't name anyone else who's in that movie, but that's a fantastic watch as well. It's very personal. It's like one of his early things. It's kind of like his if you want to make another Tarantino reference, it's kind of like his Reservoir Dogs a little bit. You know what I mean? It's just as far as that, like that small form factor personal project.
Yeah.
But it's good. What have you been enjoying as far as film recently?
Bro, I was telling you about this before. What's the name? The guy who made Life Aquatic, made Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh, Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson.
Yeah, man.
Has been fascinating to me. I've never really watched his movies before, but yeah. I love the style. I love his characters.
Yes.
I feel like they come off in a way that I don't see characters in movies come off in like any other movie.
Totally. It's so fascinating to see his movies. I just, you're reminding me, I just went through The Shining for like the first time in like 5 years the other day.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And the whole point of The Shining is that I feel like the hotel is the character, right? And then what Wes Anderson does is he like the environments are so full and rich, as opposed to like there's not disparity as opposed to The Shining. It's like he has full environments, whether it's like, I don't know, I'm thinking like the House of the Tenenbaums, or like, like those kind of environments. They're so full of life, and
everything gets attention.
Yes, absolutely.
Every single character, every like object has a place, and like it creates that vibrance. It's every scene is just a pleasure to watch.
Absolutely. Well, in every shot, right? Just like the way he paints a picture, like every single time, every single frame, right? I just love that about his stuff. But what's besides the Wes Anderson stuff recently? Have you all time? What have you been digging?
All time, the two movies that I watched lately, besides the Wes Anderson ones that I really liked, was There Will Be Blood, and I really liked The Godfather 2.
Yeah.
And I find that I think I like them for similar reasons. You've seen The Godfather 2, I already know.
I've seen There Will Be Blood as well.
You've seen There Will Be Blood as well. It seems like they show, like, to me, everything that like a lot of those, the things that they accomplish in the movie are things that like I would think I would want to accomplish in my own life.
Yes.
Like, get a lot of money, get like a lot of, like, as basically ultimate control, like complete control over their lives.
Yeah, I think what you're kind of alluding to is kind of the Wolf of Wall Streetness of
The
them
Wolf
both.
of Wall Street is the same.
Yeah.
I love that movie for the same reason.
But do you think for the purpose of the movie is to inspire the pursuit of possession?
No, I think the reason they're so good is they show you this person that gets everything. Like, basically, like, you know, you want control over your life, right?
Yes.
Well, these movies show you these people that get complete control of their lives. Like, every aspect is, like, under their supervision. And it shows you that, essentially, it means nothing. Like, they all of them end up miserable. Like, in every story, you get the Wolf of Wall Street ends up in jail, loses his wife and everything. True story.
Yeah.
You have There Will Be Blood, where they show him in his mansion, just like it's like a hoarder house. Like, he's just alcoholic. Like, didn't matter. Not everything
So
he gained
good.
didn't even matter.
That's a great one though. But yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And same with The Godfather too.
Yeah. I was more partial to the first one, but the second one just has a lot of value for like that kind of aspect of it that you kind of paint, just as far as the cautionary tale. You know? I watched I think I mentioned before we got started here that I watched Joker earlier today for the first time, and like speaking of
For the first time,
I
wasn't a fan.
I was not either. I gave it a 1 star on Letterboxd.
Dude, it's so like everyone gets mad at me, but
No, people get got ticked at me as soon as I start texting them about it.
I've seen it twice.
Yeah.
And I feel like the end of it made the whole rest of the movie. But you could take the end of Joker and get rid of the rest of the movie, and it'd be just as good as it was without the extra 2 hours.
I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah. No, that was one of those things where it's like the whole like middle third of that movie could have been completely cut.
Yeah.
You know, and of course there's like plot that occurs, but it's like you have basically 5 key events, and that's like a short film if you just look at those 5 key events. You know what I mean? It's like I didn't have much of an appreciation beyond that, which again, you know, I know it's the controversial take, but
and it made me mad because they had the spirit of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, they give you the spirit of what the movie should have been at the end.
Right.
With like the scene where he's I don't want to. Sorry, I'm already spoiling like all of these movies, so I'm gonna stop. But at the end of the movie
end of
is
the movie.
exact. In my opinion, the end of the movie should have been the whole movie. Like, somehow they needed to do what they did at the end the whole time.
Yeah.
They could have.
Yeah, aren't they doing a second one? Can't remember.
They said they're gonna have him in the Batman universe.
Really?
Yeah, he's gonna be. I think.
That's
Because
crazy.
the Joker shows up in the Batman movie, right? I don't remember. I heard a rumor that he was going to be in the new Batman.
The DC is already screwed over, man. They don't know what they're doing any more than we do.
It's nuts.
Yeah, man. Well, so what about how's school been going for you, man? How's good? How's stuff? Just how's life?
Life's been good. School's been good.
Yeah.
Gotta ask my question, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is school to you?
And this is something you're asking everyone, right?
Every single person gets that question on this show.
You know, you gave me the benefit of asking that before we sat down in front of microphones, and I should have been thinking about this whole time. You know, I think for me, and I think this is going to be something that people might find disagreement with, and that's okay. For me, I found it just to be extremely freeing. You know what I mean? At least in terms, you're asking about higher education, right?
Mm-hmm.
In college.
The university system.
system.
Going the whole process of going to college. Like, what is it to you? What was it to you before you went? What is it to you now? Like, after you graduate and you send your kids to college, how does it place in your life?
I think, yeah, for sure.
You say it's free.
Yeah. I think prior to coming here, it was just a total freak out. You know, I mean, we had COVID and everything, and it was like, that was almost like a weight off my shoulders because I was so just kind of tying myself into knots, right? Just as far as like, I almost like didn't want to be here. Like, it was a choice that I was making. So it was never a point where like I'm being forced to be here. Like, I wanted to go out and go to a different part of the state at least and go do this other thing. But it was just like, it still scared the absolute crap out of me, you know? And so I get here, and, you know, then life happened, you know, bumps in the road and stuff just happens here. And you learn that it's like something that's it's different in a lot of ways as far as the people you're around and what you're doing, but then it's like, oh wait, it's still just life. It's still just interacting with people and trying to get into one day and out of the next one. It's like you're still learning that it's just life stuff. I think as far as my just overall impression of what's been, again, coming up on graduation here, it's like I'm really grateful for all the great people that I've been able to meet, and like just all the opportunities that I've been presented through here. As far as just the value that I've found, I think it's the fact that it's a gamble, right? And it's kind of like, it's trading, it's blackjack, it's 5-card draw, you're hoping to get some value out of this. You're hoping to get some ROI, right? Some return on investment, or something that's something tangible, right? You talk about wanting to look at films like There Will Be Blood and get some sort of like control over your life, right? And I think for me coming out of here, it's like, I don't know that I have control, but I have the tools to get into places where I feel comfortable, and comfort doesn't look like, There Will Be Blood mansions, but it does look like just being around the people that I enjoy in places that I find livable. You know what I mean? I think that's just kind of the biggest thing, where it's just like, okay, can I make it comfortable and livable around people that I enjoy in a place like this? And, it's probably not for everyone. I mean, I've got great friends who, they're going straight into trade. They're going, they're working restaurants. They're enjoying those lifestyles. And of course it's not for everyone, but, I think everyone comes to this kind of place, and it's like they have something that they're trying to find in themselves, in other people, and, whether it's like relationship or some other kind of, maybe like a freedom from family or something like that, just kind of get out of the house for once. You know what I mean? I think that's, for a lot of people, that's probably just the main thing. It's just like, let me get out of the house and try just something different for once, And so I know that was a very winded answer, but I appreciate the opportunity just to speak on it. So yeah, that's probably it.
Man, I think I agree with most of that, I have to say.
What about you? I mean, I'm not sure if anyone's ever turned the question back around, but what's your impression of university system, college, all that?
It would be the first. I don't know, man. I started this podcast kind of trying to figure that out. I feel, having been through COVID and in this situation now, and like as a kid growing up trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I feel like I never understood the value of college. Mm-hmm. I've been here and I've always kind of wondered, when you go to get a job, I found that the most learning you do happens when you're doing your job and around the people that you're doing your job with. They'll show you what to do. And the people that were the best at the jobs that I've worked at were the people that either were there the longest or put the most effort in. Like that person that goes and does, you're at your job and everyone has, like, I worked at Jiffy Lube. There was lower bay, upper bay, manager, and then the person that like talks to the customer and sells the oil.
Right.
The person that went and did all of the positions was always they rose the quickest. They knew the most. They were the most comfortable. They were the happiest at their job. Mm-hmm. And so when getting jobs, I've always felt like that was the best way to do it. Like, we're getting our degrees to get our jobs. We're going to get there and we're not going to have any of that.
Right.
From sitting here reading textbooks, from listening to lectures.
Yes.
But I'm starting to find that I think the value of college is an inspiration personally. Mm-hmm. Along with all the things that you've said and other people have talked about, the networking that you get from here,
absolutely,
the freedom to like figure yourself out, obviously. But for me, lately, in the last week, and it's not a complete picture, of course, but I find that there's a lot you get from like seeing a professor that's really good. Mm-hmm. You take away a lot from that. Absolutely. Even if the subject matter isn't that great, if they have a really good teaching style,
absolutely, yeah, it's
more valuable.
For sure. You allude to kind of like the work experience, and I think, yeah, there's nothing that replaces just getting in there and doing the thing, right? That's why we have this thing called internships and work study and all that stuff. It's just get in there, get your hands dirty, and just do work, and get your nose out of textbooks and get some like life skill. I was working this in hospitality this last summer at a resort that will remain nameless. Man, you know, it was a really great experience overall, but it was just kind of like at college you're not, even if it's repeated time and time again, you're not the teaching of be okay with failure isn't like properly communicated, because at every job that you start at, especially if it's something like super like highfalutin or like technical, you're gonna screw up like tons of times before you start getting stuff right. And I was working this hospitality gig, and I was telling this story to a friend over the weekend, but it was just like it was this wedding, and it was a wedding between this couple that both the bride and the groom had gone to Princeton, and so and they were, you know, nice enough people, but I had this whole tray of Aperol spritz on, you know, and it was just like on these big nice tall wine glasses. You know, they try to get you to get your other hand behind the back with the tray out front, and it's just like I take a bum step over a bleeding rock. You know what I mean? I get covered in Aperol spritz. You know what I mean? You know, it was so terrible. It was so terrible. And like, you know, my boss was like, "Well, I didn't know you were trying to take a shower during your shift or whatever." And it's just like, yeah, man, whatever. But it's you know, that just kind of like, again, alluding to that job experience at Jiffy Lube. It's like being okay with just screwing it up a million times before you get it right is like, maybe not a million, but like, you know, just being comfortable in uncertainty.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah. There's and again, I make music and stuff, so I always find a way to work music into every conversation. But like, there's are you familiar with LCD Sound System? The artist?
Not enough to say anything.
For sure, no worries. But you definitely check them out after, because they're great. But
LCD Sound System.
Yes,
okay.
do it. The lead man for that group was a guy named James Murphy, and that they broke up in, I think, 2011, and he was apparently a good friend of David Bowie before he died, and so David Bowie's talking to him in his very nice lilting British accent, you know, or whatever, and he's like, why aren't you gonna make another record with LCD Sound System? You know, there was a feud within the group or something like that, and he's like, oh, I just don't really want to. And he's like, would that make you uncomfortable? And James is like, yeah, that makes me really uncomfortable. He's like, that's why you need to do it. And I'm just, and like that, like I heard that story like the first time, you know, I probably echoed over a radio show or something like that. It was just like, holy cow, you know what I mean? It was just like, that's my mantra, you know what I mean? It's just like, if I'm uncomfortable, if I'm insecure, if I'm not in the place where I feel like I need to be, then that's probably exactly where I need to be. You know what I mean? And so,
yeah,
again, returning to college, it's that topic. It's just like that. This entire time for the last like 4 years, it's just been like, yeah, I'm really uncomfortable right now, and it's you know, maybe that's a bad way to put it, but it's just like, I mean, I'm not sure that's relatable in any way, but it's just like, I don't know, does that fly? Does that track with you at all?
Does in some ways. What's the hardest part? What's the hardest part about college for you? What makes you the most uncomfortable?
Just that networking part. Dude, it's, well, especially when you're told to like go into a room with like 70 other people you've never met before, and you're told to like go up and talk to that person about like just connect with them. That's scary. I would, you know, I think you and I and anyone listening would probably rather just go to a bar and just be like, you know, what's up? You know, we'd probably rather do that thing. You know,
we don't know what to say.
We don't know what to say, and it's just like that scares the absolute crap out of me.
Yeah, for me,
yeah, what about you?
I think it's like the most uncomfortable I get here is figuring out what I like really need to take away from like classes. Like, I feel like sometimes like I figure like I need to like memorize everything.
Right.
But other times I'm like, well, like for myself, like I should get a takeaway that like you know, resonates with me.
Yeah. And
finding that balance is hard.
Absolutely. So is it kind of just determining the value of each subject? Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, 100%. Just like figuring out, because you know you're in like I have a hard time with math.
Yeah.
I've like going into math because like going like into cold water for me. I don't want to touch it.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
And you get in there and like I can spend a lot of energy like learning the mathematics and like memorizing it, putting it all into like my head, but there's other things I'm interested in, and if it resonates me more than mathematics, then I'd rather go do that and like take that path.
Is there something besides like mathematics that really just kind of you again alluded to great teaching, but is there a subject that's just it really just gets you going? It's like, okay, I like being here. I love this.
I'm in the business degree.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it because I'm really interested in how, business is increasingly taking over everything. Everything's about money. Everything's about like.
Everything is business, bro. Everything's business.
It's all becoming very corporate, and I'm interested to understand how it works. Like I'm taking this management class.
Okay.
Or like leading organizations.
Sure.
And just seeing the structure is fascinating to me, bro. Just like understanding like, okay, this is leaders. This is like how the leaders work. Mm-hmm. This is like the second in command. This is how second in command works.
Right.
And seeing like how all those pathways work, you begin to see, okay, these corporations have these same structures. Mm-hmm. When you see these decisions being made, when you see those like advertising decisions being made, like we're going to like mass advertise or we're not going to advertise at all. You start to see the functioning behind the wall, I guess you could say.
Totally. Is that something that you're seeing, I don't know, maybe not in media, but like you see just companies, your studies are echoed in what you see in the world? Is that kind of what you're alluding to a little bit?
I want to be able to study a business the same way that someone would study the like anatomy of a plant. Mm-hmm. Like this is, you give the plant water, the plant grows. Yeah. You give the plant sun, the plant grows.
Yeah.
And for these reasons, it has the chromatophores. It's, you understand what I'm saying.
I do, yeah.
And I'm sure that businesses could be understood in that way, but I don't understand business in that way.
Sure.
And since it's so important in our lives,
yeah,
I need to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna feel like if I'm gonna have confidence in like anything I do after this.
Yeah.
I need to be able to understand that.
Well, is that also it also sounds like that's a little bit of a source of maybe not discomfort, but like, is there pressure to have that understanding?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
As someone in the same major, I definitely agree with that. It's kind of like, you want understanding, you want to make sure that you're knowledgeable and you have like the skills necessary just to kind of navigate and understand how networking and professionalism and like those kind of soft things work, as well as just like, okay, our revenues went up, okay, what caused that? Our revenues went down, what caused that? You know what I mean?
And like, you get to understand the scams, you get to understand like all the ways that like you could fall, just understanding it,
totally
keeps you safe.
Absolutely. Right.
Gives you the ability to rise and avoid things that might cause problems. Totally.
No, that makes total sense.
It's just so prevalent.
It's everywhere, man. Yeah, I think I had a very similar rationale when I was selecting that pathway of study. I think the leadership kind of just general aspect of like the management side was very appealing as well. But also just the potential to create something and just kind of build something from the ground up if you wanted to. Like, and that's a skill, and that's as we were just kind of talking about, like that's something that you learn by doing, obviously, and haven't had the opportunity to get super, to the grindstone on that kind of stuff. But that it's such a fascinating world to be in with a lot of facets. I went to this.
It's crazy, bro.
It's so crazy. I went to this networking, I think last week, and we were talking about like insurance specifically, and it was like you think, and the speakers alluded to like. You think that it's just like, okay, issuing policy and paying the claim, issuing policy, paying the claim. It's like, dude, just vast amounts of like work and people, and like you can travel, you can sell, you can buy, you can do any number of stuffs within like insurance alone. And I mean, I found it to be personally, and I'm in an insurance class right now, so I hope my professor isn't listening, but it's like, it's probably not my bag, you know what I mean? But it's very fascinating just to see how everything can be broken down like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's so many parts. Exactly. There's so many, like, and so much crossover too.
Yeah.
Like you get into advertising, you could get in basically anywhere, bro. You could get into insurance. You could get into like Fortune 500 companies. You could get wherever.
Yeah.
Get into management. You can get in pretty much wherever as well. And like if you go into insurance, you get really good at marketing. You can take that insurance marketing, apply it to another business.
Oh, yeah.
make that business grow like no other.
Yeah, well, and it all comes from that experience, right? And I'm hoping, and I'm sure you are as well, just to get that experience just kind of right out the gate, and just make something and just kind of yourself, and like get that resume kind of stuffed a little bit more. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's such an interesting world, and there's a lot to it. There's definitely a lot to it.
We'll get our businesses done. Don't worry.
for sure,
hey,
man.
So you're really into music.
I try to be.
Talk about it.
So I was in band as early as elementary school, and I played piano before that. And then I played an instrument in middle school and high school as a saxophone player, and I started playing a lot of jazz all the way through high school. And I liked jazz a lot to play, and when I was playing, I was listening to jazz a lot.
Yeah.
And that was really enjoyable. But I also had this side of things where it was like I was raised on really great 90s and 2000s kind of like rock and techno, and it was like that like those two sides. It was like the yin and yang going on. You know what I mean? It's like those two things were like they took equal parts of my musical kind of consciousness. You know what I mean?
Techno and rock.
Yeah, well, techno and rock. I'm thinking like Chemical Brothers or like Daft Punk and stuff, and then also like DJ Shadow and Moby and Radiohead and Smashing Pumpkins and Pearl Jam, and just like so like because that's what my dad listened to growing up. So it's of course like, oh yeah, now I'm gonna listen to it because that's the easiest way to go about things. But yeah, and then I got all the way through high school playing saxophone. COVID hit, as we hit on. And then I played in the remote jazz band here at Washington State, and that was enjoyable in a lot of ways. I really enjoyed the playing and recording the parts and talking to people in the band. But I think it just didn't have the same kind of flavor as just high school, like the club feel of that and like just the intimacy of that. So then I took time off of saxophone after my freshman year, and then I started to learn guitar during COVID.
Okay.
And I'm not very good, but I know my head from my ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You can. Okay.
Yeah. And but so then I started recording some of that. I got into the music tech program here, so I was working with mics and recording groups and learning how to mix music and things, and essentially how to run a recording studio. Which was a fascinating thing. As far as just the passion, what I enjoy listening to, it's all over the place, man. I think the bleeding meme of like I listen to everything except country it holds somewhat true to me. You know what I mean? I mean I like as far as country, I do like groups like Wilco, and I like Iron and Wine, and I like Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson and stuff. And I. At this point, anything that's not Taylor Swift, man. But it's and then got into hip hop in high school as well. I think I remember I'll put it this way. I remember where I was when I first heard "Damn" by Kendrick Lamar, and I remember sitting there and I heard that intro. It's like the lady walking down the street, and it's like that intro, like
it's flawless.
It's flawless, right? That's the hook that drags you into like his entire discography. At least it was for me. You know what I mean? And he's got one of those on every one of his records.
Did you listen to his mixtapes before he like released Overly Dedicated?
You know what? I'm not that big of a super fan, but I would totally, if I had the time and the the inclination, I totally would. Are they good?
It's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
I just started listening to them like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, on what?
YouTube.
Really?
They're all on YouTube.
Okay.
When he was a kid, it's insane.
How old is he in that?
I think he's got to be like, I think he was 20 when you released Overly Dedicated, so he's got to be like 16, 17. Might be older than that. But.
That's crazy, man. That's so wild.
But yeah, I mean, I love Kendrick.
He's great.
Can't lie.
Yeah. How about you? What have you been listening to or just enjoying?
I love rap, bro. I think rap covers everything. Rap to me seems like it covers, like it's a mixture of all of our music that we've created so far. It's like the most recent style. It's the most popular, and it seems like a cocktail of just like rhyming, poetry, on mixed with EDM and like jazz kind of beats, like EDM on like a jazz like level.
Yes.
Do you kind of get that?
Well, just as far as just R&B, right?
Yeah.
I think, and I totally hear you on the EDM thing. Absolutely.
And then of course you can change it up with drill beats. You can change it up with and it changes it a lot.
Totally.
Surprisingly.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of like the not flavor of moment, but it's definitely like a popular genre right now. And I've read some statistics where it's like people think like, oh wait, Travis released one bad record, it's gonna die. You know what I mean? It's like I don't buy into that so much, but it's like it's so ubiquitous. You know what I mean? It's in current culture, and to think that it wasn't at one point, and that it was like just kind of it was viewed like punk rock or something like that. It's just like, oh, what's that? That's you Grody. You know what I mean?
I don't even think it was for that long though, and that's the thing. Like punk rock seems like it still hasn't gotten its hold. Like there's still a lot. Like it's still a niche thing, in my opinion, from my perspective.
I hear that.
It was never like top 50 worldwide.
No, that's a good point. I just think of how like other artists have used it, and I think of like grunge, and I think of like Nirvana.
Yeah.
And the fact that Nirvana was essentially a punk group. You know what I mean? As far as just the instrumentation and the flavors utilized, they got their hooks in the world, and like that opened the bag of worms on like rock and everything. With rap though, I always, and maybe this is too pretentious of me to think about it like that, but like, do you ever find that I guess I don't know how to put it, but like I feel like we'll put it this way: for jazz, there's the undeniable like it's a black art form, right? It's a black art form created by black people that was, appropriated at many points and then eventually appreciated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, do you ever think about, and there are tons of, like, commonalities you can draw between those genres. Do you ever think about it like that? Do you ever, I guess, do you ever cognate that when listening? I know that's heavy. I know that's heavy, but
like, do I think that jazz and rap are similar?
I do you think about like societal context?
Yeah. I think that, let's see, here's what I would say. I think that, good rap comes from hard places.
Yes.
All of it.
Yes.
It's seemingly all of it.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion. The people with the hardest lives, for the most part, in the beginning, like, create the best music. I don't know why that is. I think you, I don't know, just like colors the soul.
Yeah. Well, art is an expression of pain, right?
Is it? Is that what people say it is?
That's one of my takes on it. You know what I mean? But you make a good point where it's just like you have to hurt to make something beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a crazy thought.
And another thing about it is rap, jazz, and it applies to rock too. But with jazz, like a lot of jazz, it's not pre-set up. Like you kind of go in and you just start playing, and you play like through feeling. Like,
yes.
You just play the piano as you feel you need to play it.
Mm-hmm.
The band plays like that.
Yeah, and you reference technique, but yeah, you were saying, go ahead.
And then with rap, you have freestyling.
Yes. No,
and you get a lot of similarities with that. But like, I mean, you could say that's a cultural thing, but you get the same thing on the psychedelic rock side, and I don't know if you get that as much on like rock and roll.
Yeah, it's so. I think what like what someone's trying to express is at the forefront of rap, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just like here's what I'm gonna say, and here's a backbeat. You know what I mean? And like it's the focal point of the art form, And so with rock, it's like you can have like a ripping guitar solo that overshadows the whole song. And it's just like, okay, I'm not really listening to the lyric anymore. I'm listening to that sweet bass lick or that guitar solo or whatever. Kendrick just so happens to be blessed with like the benefit of amazing production and rhythm and instrumentation and stuff, which I think is sick. But he's so intent on making good lyric too, as we're saying.
And he's got, I don't even know how he does it so well, but he does it so well. Because like I look at like Kanye and I'm like, like Kanye, like you can't just play whatever, but like he's got really good music. Like he makes stuff that like you listen to and you're like, I'm glad this exists.
Yes.
And then I don't like listen to it much after that. But
yeah,
Kendrick, I can listen to, and he does the same thing
for sure.
Whenever.
Yeah, I think with Kanye, there's like, he just has so much stuff that it's been hard for me to like dig through all of it. And I like when I go deep on an artist, I like to listen to just all their stuff, like top to bottom, their entire catalog, and like no stops. I got to about, and this is gonna be something I'm gonna get eaten alive for, but like I got to about Graduation, and it was so distant from like the roots of like College Dropout and Late Registration that it was like I could see the appeal, but it wasn't what I had become accustomed to. And hey, he reinvented himself. That's dope. And I'm not gonna say like, oh, it's like Graduation's bad, because that's not what I'm saying. But like, it just, that's the point where I found that my frame of reference was kind of like lost as far as how much I enjoyed it.
I don't understand Graduation because I wasn't alive before Graduation, but I think that, I think that Graduation was the point where like rap turned into the pop that it is now. Like all of like the pop music that we hear now was because of Graduation. We don't get that because we go back and listen to it and we're like, this just sounds like rip-offs of like everything I already listened to. But you have to understand.
It's a good point. It's a really good point. Yeah.
That was the first time that music ever like came out. So it's hard to go back on his stuff. Have you listened to Yeezus though?
I did give it a try earlier this year, and he's got his thing. He, like, as with Kendrick, as with Drake, he's got his thing, right? And in Yeezus, he's in his element. You know what I mean? Like the production and the lyricism, it's full-blooded Kanye. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just don't have a frame of reference on that.
I love the risk, bro. I just love the risk in Yeezus. There's nothing like it.
Yeah. That's dope. I mean, I've probably only gone through it like once, and I don't have a frame of reference on that. But I've heard good things, and I've heard enough to know that it's probably a great record or a great listen.
Actually, I'm gonna tell you what.
Yeah,
I have this question. You're a perfect person to ask this question to, because I've always kind of wondered this. The reason I like Yeezus so much is the songs have they're just like so out of pocket. That's the wrong way to say it. They are disjointed. There's no chorus. I mean, there are choruses on some of them, but for them, like, there's one song on it that changes into like 3 different songs. Like the beat changes, the like style changes.
Yeah.
But it makes it hard to listen to. But it's really like interesting to listen to if you sit down and listen to it.
Yeah.
And it reminds me, the only thing it reminds me of is classical music, because classical music doesn't have a hook. You listen to a classical song and like it's all over the place.
Ooh, I would make a disagreement with you. I think if you go back to like Mozart, or if you go back to Bach, it's like you've got some really amazing hooks. Like there's
not a hook. I mean like a chorus. There's no chorus.
Well, I mean like lyrically.
No, like as in the song. So like even if you listen to like an EDM song, right? Like it's got the build up, it's got the main chorus,
I get what you're saying.
and then it goes back and like another build up, and then the main chorus. And Yeezus, there's like 1 or 2 songs with a chorus, and the rest of it's just like complete, just
like freeform kind of.
Freeform, and though, like I said, like jazz and classical music are the only genres that remind me of, like, it's like hasn't been done with lyrical music as much. I'm not saying it hasn't been done, because it has.
Sure.
You got Touched by Daft Punk. You have you got other songs. I can't think of it now.
I think the classical thing is an interesting comparison. And again, I don't have a frame of reference on the album to like kind of talk out of that, but I think what makes me think of classical more is probably metal. Like are you familiar with Tool?
No.
Okay, so they have a great track, or they have a great album and great discography. So I'll go beyond track, but I think of they have this track called Parabola, and it's 2 tracks on the album Lateralis, but it's the opening track is like, or the Parable is like a 5-minute build up, and then when it switches tracks, it's just a straight groove. It's awesome. It's one of the best drops in an album all time. But like the way I think of metal, like Metallica, I think of I don't know, Van Halen. You think of that the virtuosic nature of it all, and like how you you have those really nice chords, and you have like like metal is almost the disregard of jazz. You know what I mean? You don't have blues, you don't have like soul, you don't have like, I mean, I'm not in terms of like emotion, but in terms of,
it's like the opposite.
yeah. And I think what metal does is you've just got some great chords. And if you put like Rammstein or Metallica or Tool or Perfect Circle, and you put any of those groups, like, and you just kind of like, you stopped listening to like lyric, and you kind of replace the guitars with like strings, and you replace the drums maybe with some nice cymbals and some, you know, some toms or like something like that, you've got a classical song there.
Really?
You know, at least I mean, that's how I've thought about it for forever. And that's not me saying like that's how you should listen to it, but I think that's kind of like the modern.
That's the connection. That's what makes it.
That's what makes me think of that. Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. With Kanye, it's well. First of all, going back to memes, he has the best memes. Like you can never not enjoy like a good Kanye meme.
He doesn't care, bro.
He doesn't care.
Legitimately doesn't seem like he cares.
I mean, you know, it's and. You know, I gotta say,
it seems like he cares so much. I don't know how he
exactly. It's like I don't think he knows what he's doing, man. I think, you know, there was that probably 5-month period right after like he tweeted some things that I, you know, that weren't good, that I was just like, I need to like.
Did you hear what his new album? Well,
what
his new album might be called?
Jesus is King 2. I heard
he trademarked the name You.
As in what?
YEU. Use.
No way. That's crazy, dude. That's insane. No, I mean, and I've you know I've got myself really well. No, and here's the thing. I'm recording.
He loves the juice, bro. He loves the juice. Oh my God.
Apparently, he loves the juice. Yeah. I've bookended myself really well in this recording by saying that I like the early stuff. But you know, I mean, it is what it is.
Do you think that what do you think makes someone like that so crazy? Like the fame, like because I've heard like it happens with almost all actors. I've heard that it happens with and it's always a different strain. Actors, I've heard like just like there's obviously it's always ego, but actors have like their own kind of problems, and then you have like the producers that get like super, or not producers, but like the managers of like these movie managers.
Yeah.
You had like the Weinstein case and like everything, like that's their kind of strain of problem, and then you have like
you're talking about like what makes someone go off like the deep end. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Why do like music artists turn to substances and like insanity? Actors turn to like just being I don't, their own problems.
I don't think that it's different based on what your medium is. I mean, you guys have guys like R. Kelly, and you've got like some crazy just people all around. And I think, yeah, you put too much power in one person's hands, it always goes downhill, right? You know, but I don't know, man. I think that you can listen to a musical artist or watch a movie with a certain actor and still enjoy it.
100%.
You know
it's
what I mean?
art. Art is art.
Yeah. It was weird watching American Beauty after Kevin Spacey went down for stuff, but you know. But you know, you can still you can at some point you have to like maybe even swallow your own pride and be like, I'm such a social justice warrior on stuff. I mean, but even if it's not that, it's just like, hey, I need to appreciate this just as art and separate it from this person.
Do you think people like don't get like worried about it because we are worried about absorbing some of that? Like if they're a bad person and we're watching them express themselves, or if we perceive them as a bad person and watch them express themselves,
that's a good question.
Are we going to be inspired by this somehow to become that?
I think if the only kind of issue with you that you can have with that is like, if you look at that person and you think that, oh, that's okay just because you're a fan, if they do something like bat crap crazy. You know what I mean? If you think that if you're going to apologize for their insanity or whatever they're going down for, and just because you're a fan of their work, I think then it's like, it normalizes kind of that behavior. I think that's probably the only issue. I've never really, you know, I'm not going to go listen to R. Kelly and then, you know, go want to go do R. Kelly things. You know what I mean? Like that's not the issue. I mean, maybe that's just because that's an issue an insane person would have, but I don't know. I think it's as far as a widespread issue, I don't think it becomes an issue that people are inspired by that. I mean, if you look at like someone who's a speaker, if you look at like a politician though, if you look at someone who's like they're on a pedestal and they are like literally prescribing you do action or you do things, then like that's different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even with Kanye, I mean, it's just one of those things where he's so singular, and he always has been. And I think that's partially why like a lot of people like it. It's just because it's like he's doing his own thing. He's not doing Drake. He's not doing, Chance. He's not doing what anyone else is doing. I think that there's value and like a lot to worry about in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a complicated situation.
What about you? Do you think that behavior from people who we love, we supposedly love, like, do you think that inspires people?
I think that it does not. I think that everyone has a different takeaway from art in general. I think that everyone has a different takeaway from these pieces of music, from these movies, and I think that the reason that a lot of these things are so good is because they have a balanced message for the most part. I think that there are takeaways that you can get from it that inspire like bad behavior in some ways, but at the same time I think there's a lot of takeaways that inspire a lot of good behavior.
Sure.
And seems like either it takes a crazy person in the first place, or it just makes people crazy to like spend your whole life creating these things. And
yeah,
I just think that's the kind of nature of it. I think we have a misunderstanding as to like what we don't understand the mind enough to understand why you end up with a Kanye, or why you end up with any of these people that create things that resonate so much, and then as a person
they fall off. Yeah.
Are not anything you'd want to be. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask you actually, in terms of either film or art or in any kind of medium you want to kind of take this question into, do you think that there's a wrong way to interpret any kind of like piece of art? Because I was watching, what was it? It was, I was watching Get Out the other day for the first time, the Jordan Peele movie, and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and it's obvious, that he had a vision for that, and that he, it's Daniel Kaluuya in that movie, right? I think.
Oh, I don't remember.
Okay, but in any case, fantastic. That I loved every minute of it. I was talking with the person I watched it with, and this person didn't think that. We were talking about it, like, and we were kind of playing devil's advocate to one another, like, do you think it'd be an apt interpretation to say like, oh, that, like the moral has nothing to do with race, like if you like hypothetically, right, like that would be an interpretation that you could have, right? But do you think that there is such thing as like an inaccurate personal interpretation?
Yes, I think that you just haven't. I think the inaccurate personal representation is you just take like one thing about it. You take one part and go with that.
Yeah.
Instead of like, it's like taking like one piece of a pie, I guess, somehow, but you don't get all of the, like, you take the crust of a pie and you say, okay, this is what the pie is.
Yeah.
I think that's
a really great way to put it. Yeah.
That's a wrong way to take away from any piece of art. But I think as long as you're taking enough of the pie, and like I said, like that's why it's so good. If it was a bad pie, no one would want it.
Yeah.
And I think that there's bad art. I think that there's art that like you can take away from, and like you should not say like. But it's not necessarily because of the views. It's just the way that it was made.
And just the intention maybe behind it.
The intention.
Yeah.
Everything that went into it. I mean, like propaganda is not good art. It's art. You could argue propaganda is art. It's not good art. And it's 100% because of the way it was made. You can make a pie the wrong way.
Yeah. All that intention. It's like if you make it just with, just if it's just a pie of baking soda, it's not a pie, right?
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with that. The pie analogy is beautiful, and I love that, and I'm going to use that. I was thinking just about that movie again, that about Get Out, and it was so impactful. And there's Childish Gambino music in there. You've got a great soundtrack. You've got a great story. You've got great acting and great script. And I was just like, I'm using this as a massive plug to like just go watch that movie, Black Klansman, because it was like, it's like both of those pieces are products of that time. You know what I mean? The fact that we're looking back at like 2018, 2017 as like 5-6 years ago now is like scary to me, dude.
It's so crazy.
It's scary, dude. And to think that it's just like, oh, we've only had how many wars since then? In like one pandemic. It's wild. It's so wild. And you were asking kind of just about time frame and everything. Like what is like the experience been like over the last couple of years? It's just like, I think those movies are so like, they embody that so well for not my experience, but just like the observed experience.
Yeah.
That of what I've seen go on in the country and the world, and it's they're so impactful. I wanted to bring it back around and just kind of ask you about music. You've referenced EDM a couple times, and just for my own personal purposes, but like, could you throw out an artist, or like just what are you listening to?
Oh man, EDM.
Yeah.
So EDM touched me, bro. EDM was like the first music that EDM got me into music. I wanted to ask you this too, like what was the first kind of like music, the first like sound experience that you had that like opened your ears to like, like sound can like, got you into it. EDM was that for me.
Yeah.
And I really liked Odessa. I really liked
Holy crap.
ZHU. I really liked. There was one called Galantis or something. I listened to some of that.
Okay.
They had some pretty good ones. I liked that style of music though. I could get into house as much.
Sure.
It just felt like a roller coaster. It felt like you would listen. I would listen to EDM and it'd just like take over my head, bro. Like it'd be like the sounds would just feel alive, and like you just like start like. It was like you're in the ocean, like on. It's like
the synthetic nature made it feel like you were somewhere else.
Yeah, you feel like you're being pulled by these currents, like you're in water, like and like the different like, just the way it's put together.
Totally.
Like if it's put together right, it'll like up your mood and then lower your mood, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the EDM that I listen to. I have a lot of the EDM. I would choose certain songs. Like I found a lot of artists would create like one really good song, and then the rest of it would be just kind of not as good as that one song, because EDM's a super finicky music to make.
Yeah, totally.
But I love it.
Yeah, small shout out, but you mentioned Odessa, right?
Yep.
Okay, so
One of the best.
they're awesome, right? And that whole, I think it was a moment apart. Was that like? That was one of my favorite records a couple years back. My second cousin, a guy named John, he played tuba on their live performance in KXP's studio.
No way.
Yeah, that's serious. So if you ever go back and watch the KXP performance in Seattle of them, and you look at the tuba player, that's my second cousin.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy. But that I loved Odessa. I'm actually working on breaking down an acoustic like fingerstyle arrangement of Higher Ground right now.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm trying to record that and get that out here as soon as possible. But I you talk about sounds that kind of like they open your eyes, they open your mind, and like help with expansion, right?
Yeah.
Radiohead was definitely that for me, and Moby. Are you familiar with Moby at all?
No, but I don't know what it is.
You would love Moby.
Okay.
If you like Odessa, I think kind of like you can almost trace the line between like Moby and like the Odessa thought process. But for Radiohead, I remember the moment I went to go see them in Seattle. It was a Moonshaped Pool tour in 2016 in April. And I remember I had gone to concerts before. I went to go see Rush. I went to see a band called Cloud Cult. And I think, no, those were the only concerts I saw before Radiohead. But they come out and, the one thing that you notice about like the Pacific Northwest music crowd is that everyone's showing up like 20 minutes late for like at like past concert time. You know what I mean? So we're like, wow, there's no one at this concert, and then concert starts and it's just like everyone comes in, and like that whole place smelled like Kush. It was crazy. But the first song they played was a song off that a Moonshaped Pool record called Daydreaming, and it was just like there's this little 3/4/6/8 pattern, like just like so there's this kind of like ethereal piano pad that.
Man, I wish we could play music, bro.
Yeah. No,
we almost could.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, well yeah. No worries. But in any case, it was really
maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, it was, yeah. Anyways,
it was just a beautiful moment. It was just and that whole concert was like, you talk about that one Kanye track where it's like morphing into the next thing. That was that concert for me, because like for the 3 hours that we were there, they did 3 encores, and like from the start to the end, it was just like one experience, just one whole experience, and it was so complete. And like, was that clock bells?
I hear that too. I don't know what that is.
Might have been the clock tower, right?
It sounds like it's in the. I don't know. But anyway, listeners, I hope you like the background music that I chose for this purposely. Anyways,
but yeah, that was a great concert, and I think as far as just live experience, that was where a lot of that came from. How about as far as live music? Have you gone to concerts a lot, or?
I haven't been to a lot. I saw AJR, and I saw Kendrick and Keem.
AJR.
Yeah, they did, what did they do? What's that song called? Weak?
Oh, dude. I would need to go back and look it up.
I'll find them. But, and you're gonna show me the artist you're talking about too.
Oh yeah, we'll do. I'll show you Tool here.
But I saw Kendrick and Keem. That was super cool.
That's crazy. So was Keem just opening, or was he out there the whole time?
He was opening. They did that one album together. He was on Keem's album a lot. So I guess
Melodic Blue.
Yeah.
And did they do Family Ties?
Yeah, that's the song they like came out to.
That's cool.
So it was pretty sick.
Did they do Range Brothers too?
Yeah.
You know that one Kendrick lick where it's like, hold on, top of the morning, top of the that was so great. That was so good.
They did that.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would need to go look it up and like listen to some stuff. I probably would recognize, but that was my alarm for like 3 weeks in my sophomore year, was just like, let's get top of the morning. Like, and I was just like, that got old really quick, because I don't want Kendrick yelling at me to get up in the morning. I'd rather stay in bed. It was a fun time. But yeah, that record was good. Melodic Blue, I went through a few times, and I thoroughly enjoyed that record.
So we, as people talk, and like we spend most of our time listening to like words and cadence through that. And a lot of the sounds we're like listening to like now like are more artificial. Do you think there's more like? Do you think music will increase in the future? Like people like listen to more music and like we'll find like more genres, or do you think music like will kind of decrease? Like, do you think sound will become a more used sense in the future?
That's a really. Are you asking if I think that the music created will be more diverse or less diverse? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first, I feel like the types of sounds that there are going to be are only going to expand, right? Like the amount of ways that you can throw frequency together to make a unique sample or a beat or an instrument even is only going to expand. And we're going to get more technology, and we're going to get more sampling devices, and we're going to be able to look back on more music, and people are going to discover more samples and stuff, because we've already, like, as humans, have already built up a massive like audio catalog of stuff to like draw from.
And it's super recent, so like we haven't had this catalog for that long. We haven't been able, like, we don't, in the past, if you wanted to hear a song, someone had to play it,
right?
And now you can sit down and go like, okay, these are like all the possible like cadences. These are all the possible like kind of like song like types you can have.
Totally.
And we've never had more instruments at our disposal.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. Yeah.
What path do you think we could take? Like looking into the future, what kind of instruments would you like want to like experiment more with? What kind of tunes do you want to go into?
Personally?
Yeah.
You know what? I tell you what, I would love to get a good set of turntables and do some really proper like DJ mixing. You know what I mean?
Me too. I would like
it'd be so sick, right? Like, tell me you don't go to Emporium and just like, I could probably do that. You know what I mean?
Like, you can take these songs and remix them and like bring out the same essence of the song, but like in completely different ways.
Different context.
Yeah. Different.
No, I totally. I think about that all the time. And have you ever seen the movie L'Haine?
No.
So it's this French film, and I highly recommend it. But there's this part where this guy, I think he's probably like come from an apartment window or like on top of a building. It's just like a short sequence, but like he's just DJing out into the French the Parisian streets.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's hip hop. I mean, it's just a great sequence. But that was like one of those things where it's just like you see that for the first time. It's like I want to do that. I want to do that. And it was super cool. Yeah. So DJing definitely. I'll probably return to wind instruments like saxophones as I make more music. Getting into drums and bass and guitar more, and just learning how to essentially be my own rock band if I needed to. Yeah. Like that's definitely a goal of mine. I'm getting there on guitar to where it's like I have a level of comfort. My girlfriend is learning how to play bass right now, so that's by no motivation of my own. So I'm not like shoehorning her into that. So, but she's getting pretty good at that. And then yeah, drumming definitely. I thought I was going to be a drummer when I was younger.
Why?
Because my dad was. And maybe not because my dad was, but that definitely was like part of the inspiration. He was a fantastic drummer. And just kind of having a drum kit in the house when I was young was like, oh, I could, hit things with sticks. Yeah, like every kid is good at that when they're young. You know what I mean? Just like I can hit things with sticks. And then as I got older, it was kind of like, it almost became like, okay, my dad did that, I can't do that. You know what I mean? And like there's no way you'll get me to do that. And then the saxophone thing was kind of a unique turn because I was given this record called Saxophone Colossus by Sonny Rollins, and it's a really straight ahead but also groovy and emotional and awesome journey of the saxophonist Sonny Rollins, and it's just killer. It's just a great record, just great jazz. And then I came to Sonny Rollins before I came to John Coltrane, and Coltrane was like, it wasn't a step up, but it was a step in a different direction as opposed to Sonny Rollins. So Sonny Rollins, it was like, there was some groove there and there was some attitude there, and with Coltrane, it was very spiritual. Yeah, you know what I mean? Think of, I'm trying to think of a good kind of like reference point, but it's almost a Kanye Kendrick thing. You know what I mean? Where it's just like one of them is like, the technician and one of them's the soul piece. And I'm not going to make a judgment as to which I think is which, but you know what I mean? There was, and of course Coltrane was a tactician as well and like was very good at the instrument, but it was one of those things where, and I'll return to what you were saying, just kind of about like, do I think things are going to advance? Obviously, you know what I mean? Like we I
don't know, man. A lot of people don't feel like a lot of people would say that music has gotten substantially worse since I think they say like the 60s.
I think there's more of it, and I think that the pop kind of mentality gives it a bad kind of look. I think I'll put it this way: I'm not a big Sexy Red fan. You know what I mean? I am not a Sexy Red fan, and I don't think that she has the best lyricism, and I'm not going to say anything to disparage anyone who enjoys that, because as we determined, if you like art, then that's okay. Yeah. No matter, for whatever reason you enjoy it, go ahead and enjoy that. I'm not going to say anything to disparage that. Do I think that's a regression? I don't. I think that you have like people who are going to be kind of you have the Sexy Reds of like the 70s and the 60s and the 50s and stuff.
What is a Sexy Red?
Oh, sorry, Sexy Red is a current female rapper.
Okay.
Yeah. There's going to be advancement, and I mean, to say that it's like regressing, I think if you look at pop stuff, one take that does annoy me, I think, have you seen this take that like the Sam Smith and the Doja Cats of the world are like all satanic?
Yeah, but like there's like, but bro, did you see the Weeknd performance where like no, it was, I don't know if it was the Weeknd or Travis Scott, where they had a bunch of like satanic
No way,
symbolism on it
serious?
at Travis Scott's concert, where that was built wrong, so like 3 people died.
Oh my
Was it more?
gosh! Oh, you're talking about like the Astroworld thing where like they like
The Astroworld concert.
Yeah, yeah.
Apparently, like there's a bunch of videos that I saw where like there's like all this like Satan like stuff like going up on the screens, bro.
No way.
Dude, it was sus.
That's crazy.
It was whack.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I might, you know, I might be in the I might be in the minority on this, but I don't know. I just don't put a whole bunch of like credence on like what again almost coming back to what artists do in their free time. It's just like, look, if Doja Cat's a Satanist, like, okay,
I have not heard that.
you know, it's a take, and you know, I don't.
Are they saying like they're practicing Satanism like on the side, or are they saying like they're like doing it? It's the art like somehow. I don't know.
I don't
I
even
don't understand.
No, it's nothing crazy. I wouldn't call that a regression. You know, I mean, like, I wouldn't call like an artist having and my personal thing is like Doja Cat. She's like playing into it. She's doing it for the media, and she's doing it like for like as a performative thing, not as like a belief thing. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't call that a regression. I would call that like trying to push the boundary and trying to like find where the line is, and trying to like, you know, find what people will tolerate, and trying to like move the line forward. And because there was a point where, you know, Elvis was suggestive and crazy and wild for doing like the hip thing, and it's just like, okay, but he had to move that line forward because you don't have anything we have without, you know, Elvis doing that.
Yeah.
And you know, and you don't have a lot of stuff without like Beatles releasing a song about LSD. You know what I mean? It's like there's all these things that are disagreeable in the moment. You know, it might not, that doesn't mean like everyone's going to start making songs about LSD. That's just going to move the line forward and just kind of like create pathways for more artists to expand in the genre of whatever they're deciding to choose. You know?
Sometimes it seems like the most like the most resisted songs like become the most popular later on.
I think there's good reason
like
for
a
that.
sign.
Yeah, like Sex Pistols, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so bizarre, and you know, I my hope is that, you know, music continues to get better and sound different from year to year. Because I mean, you just even look at like early 2000s versus now. It's like you don't have like, you know, NSYNC anymore. It's whatever. I mean,
What's in sync?
or Justin Timberlake's old group.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so I don't know. I think pop music is like a really bad way to judge like the whole like industry. I don't listen to pop music. In fact, I've been very anti-pop. I mean, have you seen the movie High Fidelity?
Yeah.
Yes, dude. Okay, so like, well, do I listen to pop music because I'm depressed, or am I depressed because I listen to pop music? You know what I mean? It's like what are we? You know, what's our metric here? You know what I mean? And like, because pop music is a really bad metric for a lot of discussions about any kind of art, in my personal impression.
Do you think it's just so popular because it's like familiar?
I think it's because it like doesn't. I was thinking about like Taylor Swift earlier today, right? I think the reason why she has garnered such a massive following, and I have enjoyed listening to Taylor Swift at clubs before. You know, I love Shake It Off at a club. That's a great song to play at a club, and I think that there's a reason why she has a good following. I think that she has great collaborations. I think that, you know, there's nothing to like. There's the disparaging nature is often brought about by her fan base. You know what I mean? And I
okay.
You know, at least that's why I hear people saying negative things. I think that she's approachable. I think that she's immensely approachable, and a lot of people can listen to her music and relate to it. You know, there's an old Bo Burnham bit where it's just like, hey, the way you make a pop song is you make it so generic and specific that like anyone can listen to it and think that it's about them. You know, it's like, you know, if you're a pop star, it's like, well, you know, she had, you know, those interesting colored eyes and that really nice hair or lack thereof, and it's just like, okay, you know, what are we talking about? Like, there's no, if you remove any specificity or any kind of intention from it, you know, you mentioned intention earlier, it's like that devalues it for me personally.
You don't gotta reveal them like this, bro.
Well,
Covering the secrets. Dude, I bet I 100 can tell that. That's totally true.
Yeah. And again,
That's got to be on my phone.
it's all preference. It's all preference, but it's like, it's not bad. It's just what do you like,
Yeah. I like versatility. I agree with you. I think songs they should try to go different directions. They shouldn't all go like one direction.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do. Like I think for a while, I don't think that's happening as much. I was like, I saw this whole thing about how like Tyler the Creator kind of changed the rap industry, because before Tyler the Creator, you had to go to these producers.
Yeah.
And these producers wanted to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And so they told you exactly what you had to do, and you couldn't like change up from what they wanted to do. And then Tyler the Creator got all of his popularity just on social media. He didn't go through a producer. He was like the first rap artist that didn't go through like anyone above. He produced all of his music with his group.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was called.
Odd Future.
Odd Future.
Yeah.
They produced all of their own thing. They created all of their own music, and all they did was just post it on YouTube.
That's crazy.
And that's where all of their popularity came from.
So like Yonkers era and stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Yeah.
And that's how they've done it since. And like since that's happened, a lot of the major artists are just going through social, like they're using social media, which it's natural. It's like people listen to it because they like it. When you listen to a song from a producer, it's because the producer, you've seen, I don't know if you've seen, but they've there's a bunch of like documentaries out now, and like these producers have these systems where they get a song, doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
They're like, just give us a beat that's good enough to be like kind of poppy, and like you can like bob your head to it.
Yeah.
Then they take it. They have a lot of money and a lot of influence. They go to all the networks around, and they just play that song as much as they can.
Yeah.
Whether it's good or not.
Yeah.
Top 50, top, like.
Yeah.
They make it seem like it's super popular before it's popular. Mm-hmm. Even if no one like listens to it. And then once everyone's been listening to that song for a couple months, then it's familiar.
It's familiar, and
you hear that
it's self markets at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a wild system, and like the role of a producer is definitely important in music, but it's I think music just if you've created something that everyone likes and everyone can approach, and like, or at least like most people, like 70% of the demographic you're aiming it at, then you haven't created good art, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Because like if you like 2001: A Space Odyssey. A lot of people hate that bleed movie. You know what I mean? I know I've talked to people who like they would rather just go jump off a cliff than watch 2001: A Space Odyssey or Interstellar or any of these things. There's just like maybe some of us can look at and be like, dang, yeah, that's pretty great. So yeah. When it comes to like ubiquity, do you think that that's a danger? Like, do you think that's gonna go become like that producer methodology that you were describing? Do you think that's going to become the law of the land, like just 100% in the future?
I think it's possible. Yeah. I think it's possible that could happen. To me, it seems like when you go across the world, everyone plays US pop songs. You listen to it on the radio, you listen to it at dance clubs. It's all like pretty much the same music, and pretty much everyone knows all like the major songs now. Even if it's not what they listen to, everyone knows who Taylor Swift is, and everyone knows her songs. And I think there is a threat that it could become all ubiquitous and all the same. But at the same time, you always have cases like the Tyler the Creator case. You always have cases of like where like the Beatles, you have Elvis's. They've always been there. Yeah. No matter what kind of like what walls they had to go through, what like they always come up.
The challenges and everything.
They always overcome the challenges. Yeah. And with every new artist that overcomes a challenge, it adds a layer to the music. Now that we're cataloging everything, it just adds more to everything we already have. Right. So I think it will increase for that reason.
I totally agree, and it's all character, right? It's all about like creating, like putting a personal thumbprint on something.
Yeah.
I was watching a Nicki Minaj interview the other day, and she was saying like when she was really gaining popularity, it was like if you wanted to get your music out there, you had to have talent.
Yeah.
And you needed to be talented at what you did.
Yeah.
And she's like, nowadays it's if you're popular. Can you put yourself out there and just be popular? And I don't like the idea. The thing I disagree with is I don't like the idea of art being a popularity contest.
Do you agree with that? Do you think that's really happening, or is I mean like, yeah, I don't know because I don't know. Do you see that?
I think
real?
Well, it's as someone I'm not really like cemented in the music industry. I'm not like behind the boards of those records, but and I can't see that process, But I think with the advent of like social media and stuff like especially with like TikTok, the fact that you can like if your song is like complete dog crap, if your song is like the worst thing that's ever been created, and people will make content to that song, you'll become popular and you will get money and you will gain success because of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that annoys the absolute crap out of me. You know what I mean? Like, and that. So TikTok didn't just change like video; it changed like music too. It's like, hey, I want like let's create. If your song can communicate its intention in 6 seconds, then perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for the last like week or three, I've been going through too many TikToks and reels and stuff. It's just like I set it down. And I was just like, okay, I need to listen to Pink Floyd now. You know what I mean? Like I need a 10-minute guitar solo in my life. I need I need the Dark Side of the Moon in my life. I need that just that thought out, that method, that what am I trying to say?
Dude, that's such a good artist to turn to.
Right? Absolutely. It's one of the best. It's one of the best. And as a guitar player, I love David Gilmour and just how he handles the instrument too. And it's do you have those artists where it's just like when you're overwhelmed, or if it's like it's too much on media or anything in life, I guess, like that you can turn to and just like, yep, this is like returning to roots.
Kendrick is the roots for me.
Yeah.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, Kendrick. Kendrick is the baseline artist for me.
That's awesome. I love that so much. Do you have a record that grounds you?
I usually go to Good Kid, Mad City.
Really?
Yeah, Money Trees is always good.
So good. Well, I think of Poetic Justice and such as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and
I go to Damn. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. I remember the first time I heard, well, of course, Damn, but then once I got into his music a little more, I went to T-Pab, and I was like, yeah, or To Pimp a Butterfly, and it was like, that's stuff.
I always have a new takeaway from To Pimp a Butterfly. Every time I go back to that album, I like find something new in it. Right,
and that's like a lot of those kind of weightier films out there, because it's not a pleasure record. I don't feel like.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's meant to be like I can listen to it all the way through probably once every 3 years. You know what I mean?
And there's one song, there's like 2 songs on it that I could listen to outside of like just the album. I cannot just put that on and just like listen to it whenever.
For me, King Kunta is one of those.
Yeah, King Kunta and All Right.
All Right was there. I think for me, coming out of a period that ended 3 years ago, I was listening to All Right a lot. And that was definitely on my headphones. But from T-Pab specifically, I think wasn't I on that record?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. I has been.
I is really good.
I like that track a lot. Yeah, and that one's it's interesting because it's a late record, almost a party track. You know what I mean? It's not I shouldn't say party track, but it has a groove that's seldom present on the rest of the record. Which is really fascinating to me. Beyond Kendrick, or maybe even beyond rap, and maybe even beyond EDM, do you have an artist that you turn to? Because like what? Sorry, go ahead.
Foster the People. That's the other one. Yeah. Foster the People and Kendrick. Foster the People was the first. I said EDM expanded my mind. I think that's a good way of putting it. You said like mind expansion, because it really is. It's like it adds like a new place in your mind that you hadn't been able to go to before.
Totally.
Foster the People was the first time music like connected with me. Foster the People was the first time I listened to music, and I was like, oh, like I got the message, and I still love them. I still listen to that a lot. That's my favorite artist, like outside of rap artists and the rap that I listen to.
Yeah, I remember hearing. Wait, what was their record? Torches.
Yeah.
I remember putting that on the loop when I was probably about, I think, 12 or 13.
I know, because that was like that was like the popular music when we were like super young.
Yeah,
that age range.
Well, but that stuff's great because it's like your top 3 favorite records when like you're 10 years old, like they change you forever, right?
Yeah.
You know, and same with movies, you know, it's like, you know, that stuff's so foundational. And I actually texted my dad the other day and asked him, hey, what were you listening to? What were your 3 favorite records when you were 10 years old? And I would pull it up. But in any case, I think he mentioned like Peter Gabriel, Police. Oh yeah, he mentioned Synchronicity too. Or was it just Synchronicity? I can't remember. But he mentioned like stuff like that, and it was just like, okay, cool. You know, and I don't hear him talk about that because he's, for a bleeding dad, you know, he's like really on the cutting edge of like what new music is, and I love that about him. And he a lot of times he exposes me to new music too, which is cool. It's so dope. But just to ask that question of someone of like, hey, what was, you know, your favorite thing when you were like X age, is like, that's a great question. So
can you imagine the worth of like being able to go back to that mind space that you were at when you were 10,
when you're finding your favorite things
right now?
Yes.
And listening to like music now with that mentality,
right,
where it could like take over your whole life.
Yes.
Do you remember listening to music, like you'd listen to a song and it was the only thing you were experiencing, like everything else would like shut out, like you weren't seeing, you weren't hearing, like I mean you were hearing the music, but
right.
you weren't thinking about anything. It was
Yes.
like the song took over
Yeah.
all of you. And I can never get that now. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I like completely lost that. I can listen to a song, but like I always have thoughts like going
Yeah.
like on over it. I always like have distractions.
Totally, you know, it's one of the worst pains of growing up is like, you know, just having like just stuff interrupt what you're trying to do, like what you're like, I'm trying to get lost in the film or the music or whatever. It's
You
just
can't
like,
get lost anymore.
can't get lost in anything anymore. It's like, that's why you gotta go out and like walk out into the hinterlands and, you know, put on something in your AirPods. It's just like, okay, now I can, you know, be at peace. And like,
Do you find that like if you go in a new environment and listen to music, it'll
one thing I
bring
used
you back?
one thing I used to do a lot was I used to work out a lot more consistently.
Yeah.
My motivation sense has been spotty.
Mine too.
Yeah. Yeah. But when I was working out, it's just like, hey, when I'm going full physical exertion, it's just like, okay, like my mind is like, it's just right with the music. It's like I'm not worrying about anything. It's like that was a cool place to be. But then also I would go walk out to the observatory on campus and just put on Pink Floyd or whatever just sounded good, and I would just sit for a bit and you know, maybe just bring a snack and just chill out there like in the middle of the night. Like I would go out there like 2 a.m. You know what I mean? And it was just like I don't know, I would lay on my back. I would lay on my back and I would just like, you know, like look up and just like, you know, and over the course of like 2 hours or like an album or something like that, you know, I would like see more stars like kind of just appear in my vision, and it was just like those are the last times that I remember just being like, okay, putting everything else aside and just kind of like absorbing what I'm listening to. You know what I mean? And I don't do psychedelics, but you know, I imagine that's probably pretty close. You know?
I wonder why we lose that. I really think there's a reason like we lose it. I think we like, you know, I think that when you work out,
yeah,
you build muscles, right?
Yes.
You don't work out, you lose it.
Mm-hmm.
You lose it. You don't use it, you lose it. And I wonder if like creativity is definitely a muscle. If you're not being creative,
yes,
you lose your ability to be creative, and that's 100% true. Like,
yeah,
like a good way of like being more creative, a lot of entrepreneurs say, is just to like write down 10 new ideas every day.
Yeah,
And like flexes this muscle that we're not like aware of, like scientific, like not like that, but like we don't know exactly like what it is,
yeah.
but it's there.
Well, and you were saying like as a kid, right? Like if you ask a kid like you give them like a coat hanger, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and you ask, hey, what else could you use this for? They'll come up with like 30 things.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's like if you hand it to an adult, they'll have like, it's a coat hanger, so I could probably hang a pair of pants over the underside of it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, it's like when you're a kid though, it's like, oh, it's a bow and arrow, or it's like, you know, it's like a kite or like a kite string or whatever. It's like, that's crazy.
I think the same thing must happen with music.
Yeah.
Because when you're like, do you remember being young and not listening to lyrics? Like you listen to a whole
Yeah.
song and like have no idea what
It's
this
all
is.
instrumentation. It's all instrumentation.
And,
It's like,
like,
can I move my head to this?
And even like the vocals were like part of it. Like the
Yeah.
vocals were part of the instruments. You weren't listening to the lyrics. Like if they had a good like singing voice though, if they said it with like the right like tune, like
Yeah,
it was awesome.
I tell you what, if song had a good beat and good melody, someone could have been saying some heinous things, and I would have been just like, hell yeah, man.
Bro, I can tell you right now that happened to me, dog. You know how many songs like you went back to and you're like, what were they talking about?
Right? Dude, right? Yeah, because you go back, it's just like, oh wait, that's what they were saying with that. That's crazy.
And now I listen to music, and it's like just the guy like not that it's bad necessarily, but a lot of songs that I probably like would have loved as a kid are just a guy reciting something to me now.
Yeah. But you're also a rap fan, so isn't like maybe I'm not trying to play devil's advocate, but it's just like isn't that part of the experience? It's like there's words coming at you, and that's the what's being trying to be communicated. And there is groove, and there is beat, and there is instrumentation, but isn't that what's trying to be communicated? Is like the poetry and the music, or even the words. I
think that's why I like rap the most, because they get flow with the communication. Like you listen to like it's why poetry is so good. It's why rhyming is so good. It's not about like what the logistics behind it. It's like this like flow of meaning. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so rap kind of survives that. But like people don't like country. Like it's pretty common.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you listen to the people that like country, only listen to country. I found for the most part.
I found that
they listen to it a majority of the time.
I totally agree with you. And again, I enjoy some country every now and then. It has to be just approached, and as we've established, from a genuine perspective, right?
And when I listen to country, it really is just some guy like telling me something. Like I don't get as much of get as much of like the music out of it.
Interesting.
And I don't get that flow. Like I don't get the poetry flow that I get from rap. So it's like this guy just telling me a story.
For sure. Do you think that comes down to complexity?
I think it comes down. It's like I said. Like I think we have this muscle. We like underdevelop our muscle to like appreciate melody. And we overdevelop a muscle to comprehend language. And so it's like a weakness on one side and a strength on one side. So pretty soon, like, all you're getting out of it is just the message that they're, like, talking about.
Yeah.
And you lose the ability to, like, process, like, the music behind it.
It's crazy to think about. I mean, again, with rock, as I was saying earlier, it's just like I like, cool guitars, cool drums.
Yeah.
And then, are you familiar with Jack White at all? Or like White Stripes?
No.
Okay, so White Stripes' biggest hit was a song called Seven Nation Army, and it's
I know. I know that song.
Okay.
I recognize that name.
Yeah. So it's like doom 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 doom. You hear it in sports stadiums. Hear it everywhere. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And but his lyricism, like that whole group was just him on guitar and his wife on drums. That's all that group was.
For real?
For real. Well, his ex-wife.
Oh damn! I was gonna say what a marriage.
Right. But now ex-wife, I guess I should say. But anyways, it was crazy because it's just like there's so much transparency then because you have drums, guitar, and then words. And he was a blues guy, so some of it was just like nonsensical. And it was just like, hey, let's make a fun track and like put just whatever we want to talk about behind it. It's like, this is cool, like make it sound fun and make it sound jammy. And like that kind of stuff is just like that warms my soul.
It doesn't. There's another band that does that. That's like the only thing they do.
What's the Black Keys?
I think the Black Keys might do it too.
Yeah.
But I remember there's this one band. I'm not gonna remember their name. And they'll just, it's like the same process. They just like take like a bunch of random words and then just like whatever words sound good together.
Sure, yeah.
So the message is just like nothing.
Did you ever listen to that? There was that one track by that Italian dude, and he made a song in Italian it was complete gibberish, but only using like English phonics. And so like there's no complete words, but it sounds like an English pop song and actually charted in America.
What?
Yeah, and it's like there's no real words in it. And I think it was like in the 70s or 80s or something like that. But it's like there's no words, and he studied English like phonics and just built like this little melodic jam out of just like random syllables.
I want that dedication.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy, and it's not even in Italian. It's just like some random language. I've heard clips of it. It's just like it's wild. It's so weird to listen to. But I think with rap, you're totally like on the money. It's just like there's so much intention and personal storytelling that comes with that. And I love Jack White. He does a lot of good storytelling. There's this other band he's in called the Raconteurs, and I saw them live, and they were a great concert. But there's this track called Carolina Drama, and it's basically it's 5 minutes long, I want to say, and the instrumentation builds, and the instrumentation's awesome, but basically he's telling you a murder mystery through the story, and it's like and basically you listen to the whole song. It's like if you're listening to lyrics, he tells you who did it at the end, and it's like that's awesome. That's so sick. You know what I mean? And it's kind of he's in some songs like he's got a southern drawl, but in a lot of his solo work he's got like a little bit more kind of like just groove based influence. And I think on a couple tracks you could call it rapping because it's just like the rapid flow of words on like.
But it's rock.
But it's rock, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so but it's like the emphasis and the attitude that comes with it, and like the speed and the rate and like the poetry is like it fits. I would argue that it fits kind of like the rap instrumentation and style. You know what I mean? But yeah, what?
I gotta check him out.
Yeah, man. Are you working on any creation right now? Are you kind of like? I mean, you've got this awesome podcast, which again, thank you for having me on. I'm super grateful for that.
I'm glad you like it, man.
Yeah, man. But are you working on any kind of like personal creation as far as like writing or music or maybe even just analysis?
Not really. I don't have a lot of projects right now. For a second I was trying to make music, but I can't get it to connect for myself, man.
Sure.
I'll sit down on Audacity and I've just like started to figure out like how to use it.
Yeah, right.
It's so complicated.
Audacity does not inspire much creativity.
No. But even when I figure I start making beats and I start like figuring out where I want to go, because I listen to these songs and I'm just like I'm awestruck by them.
Yeah.
I want to be able to recreate that, like understand like the headspace that you have to get into that to make that kind of stuff. And it doesn't click with me, and I don't know. I just kind of I haven't done as much with it lately, but
for sure
I've been trying to figure out like how to get how for yourself. How do you make music? Like, what do you feel like connects you to the songs that you make?
I think when I'm making something, there needs to be some sort of tangible element that I can interact with. If I'm just clicking away at a keyboard, I know people who do this where it's like they'll just take the trackpad and they'll click every note in, and it's just like, they'll use like the keypad and just like, they'll make a song like just on a laptop, no other kind of like assistance from any kind of like MIDI keyboard or anything.
Yeah. For
me, it's like I need something super tangible, and I need to be able to interact with it without any kind of like cognitive barrier. You know what I mean? So with the saxophone, it was just I got to a point where it's just like if I was thinking something, I could play it first time. Like no matter what it was, and that was like a really cool place to be. And I'm getting to the place with guitar where it's just like it's still inspiring me. I'm not speaking through it, but it's inspiring me because I can, oh, I'll play this note, and then it's like, oh, then that note comes, and then it's just like, okay, now I'm using this chord, and now it's like.
See, I don't have that. That's what I'm looking for. Well, I'm like trying to get that where it just comes to you.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it just comes, but it's just like I value everything as everything is valuable to me that I create. You know what I mean? And I think that, I don't want to be the artist that never starts. You know what I mean? I don't want to be the person who's like, in any kind of medium. I don't want to be the person where it's just like I get to the point where I'm like, and if this does happen, then cool. But it's like, I'd rather not be the person who it's like when they're 65 years old decides to be like, okay, now I'm going to start my music career. You know what I mean? And like, there's something about that where it's just like the immediacy of like, I need to make something. And even if it's like complete dog crap, like I want to have something down. I mentioned Wilco a couple, minutes ago. The lead artist of that band, great country band or alt rock country band, the lead man is a guy named Jeff Tweedy. And they're out of Chicago, and basically his morning routine is he gets up, he makes a cup of coffee, and then he goes into his home studio, and then he writes. And then that's what he does every morning. And same with like Stephen King, who like for like books and stuff, like his thing that he does is he writes at least 6 pages a day.
It's like we said earlier with like getting a job, you just got to do it all the time.
Well, and also like the thing you said with ideas, right? You just got to keep making ideas.
Yeah.
And you might make complete like doo-doo like 90% of the time, but that 10% of the time, like, record everything, right? Like write everything down, but then
it's like mining for diamonds, bro.
Right, exactly.
Gotta go through all the dirt first.
Gotta go through all the dirt. Well, I also am reminded of Aerosmith. Like I think they said they would meet like every Saturday or something like that, and they would just like they all had to bring an idea and they would all present an idea, and then like that came in all those ideas turned into like most of their great hits. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, cool. Like just like I've gone to a place and it used to not be this like this because I was so like just I was so stagnant. I was like so scared of just like, oh, it needs to be like, I need to make 2001: A Space Odyssey tomorrow. Yeah. Like I need.
I've been there, man.
Right?
Like, yeah, I know.
I need to make Donda yesterday. You know what I mean?
Because that's what inspired you. Like, you want to make you're like, oh, I saw that. I want to make something like that. But it's 2001: A Space Odyssey. You're like, where do you even start?
Well, and also that's Stanley Kubrick, and you're you. You know what I mean? So it's like, why would you want to like? I mean, it's good to take inspiration and to be immediate with your procedure, but you don't need to be forced into the mentality of like making something. Like,
the reason it was so good was because it did it in their style.
Yeah.
So you have to find your own.
Individualistic. Yeah.
I think there's like a lot of like fear in being yourself. I've heard it said before, and like increasingly as I grow older, I've noticed that like taking your own road and like really listening to your own intuition is like kind of terrifying, bro.
Isn't it? I mean, do you find that?
Yeah, I think it's like living in a house and then going, I'm gonna go into the trees and like see if like nature will just take care of me, because that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, right. It's crazy, man. And like, you know, I think just moving past fearlessness, or moving to a place of fearlessness, I guess I should say, you know. And
overcoming it,
yeah, exactly. And you know, there's no artist that starts like that, because I think every artist has kind of like an oh crap moment where it's just you know, what am I doing? I have no idea. And like, honestly, one thing I've kind of felt is like with directors and musicians alike, it's kind of like the moment you can kind of tell in their career when they're given complete creative liberty. You know what I mean? That's why Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs are so bleeding awesome. And why, for me personally, I look at, you know, Inglourious Bastards and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's like, yeah, it's okay. It's pretty cool. It's nice. It's fun. But it's not Pulp Fiction. It's not Jackie Brown. It's not, you know, because when there's still that pressure being applied, and where there's still that that point where it's just like, hey, I need to make something. It doesn't need to be the greatest thing in the world. It needs to be something. That's almost when you create your better stuff. You know what I mean? Is when there's like, just let me get something out there that's good. And like for most artists that I enjoy personally, it's just like, I love the early catalog, because like the early catalog is so impactful, you know, and so personal, and there's still that, you're talking about that thumbprint on your work.
I agree. Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah. I mean, so do you think you'll probably get to a place where you'll start getting into like music again, or what's the vision for the future for you?
Oh, to make things?
Yeah, as far as just any kind of creation.
I want to create things. I think everyone should create. I think creating is a skill. It's like a task. It's like working out. And I think it, as a person, it kind of connects you with yourself. And I think obviously gives you a really important skill that can take you a long ways. I think with that being said, I and anyone has to figure out why, like, what they can create and like what connects with them.
Yeah.
Like, I think, like, when you look at a lot of these artists, either they always have like a point where they create something that works in the beginning. Like they find a connection. They find like it's like you're going into the woods and you just see like a deer path, like just like barely a little path that like you can start to walk down, and like that's where you start to discover like the way that you want to go, like what you want to create. I'm trying to find that for myself. I don't know if it's going to be like, I don't know if I'm going to make my own songs, or like I really want to remix songs.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten into that as much, so I need to try that. I also used to really like writing. I used to like writing like short stories.
Yeah.
I've thought about getting back into that. Yeah. So one of those ways.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and the cool thing about like art and even like business ideation is like, it's personal. It's for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I think you got to write, like, if you're writing to have it be bleeding, you know, Oscar worthy, then you're not doing it right. I feel like if you do it to like be yours and to have it speak to this like little itch that you need to scratch in your mind and in your soul, then it's like, okay, then that's good. You know what I mean? And, you know, I think like, you know, we were talking about defining art earlier. Do you think that like a lot of artists, musical or otherwise, are out there like doing that? Do you think that they're writing for personal impact?
Yeah, I think that if you don't like your own creation, it's no one, like, who's to say anyone's gonna like it?
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm sure these artists love their own music. You know, you always wonder like what does like Kanye think about like his own. Does he ever listen to his own music?
Right.
Do you think
Yeah.
like what does he think when he like listens to his songs?
Totally.
Did he know which songs are gonna be popular and which ones weren't?
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy.
But I think that if you don't like your own stuff, and you won't like it if you don't create it, if like it doesn't come from like your own style. If you're trying to copy someone else, you're not gonna like it.
Yeah.
And no one's gonna like it.
So true. I was watching a Howard Stern interview with Tarantino from probably a couple years back, and he asked him, "Hey, do you watch your own movies?" And he's like, "Well, what are you talking about? Of course I watch my own movies." And he's like,
I love that question. I love that question.
And it's like
That's perfect.
Yeah. and he's like, "No, that's why I make my movies, is so that I can watch them." You know, and it's like, dude, like, of course.
That's it.
That's it.
That's his ultimate creation right there.
Yeah,
when you're creating things just for like you're making your own world at that point.
Yes.
And that's what people want.
And you mentioned earlier how like kids are good at that. Where it's just like, hey, you get Legos, you get dolls, you build story and you build world, and it's just like at some point that switch gets turned off.
I really think it's like I said before, society is scaffolding. Society is like a building. Like, you see all these people acting a certain way, and you know that works.
Yeah.
You know that's safe. Just like your house is going to protect you.
Yeah.
But you don't get to see the sunlight when you're inside your house.
Yeah.
And when you're following what everyone else is doing, like, you're not going to do your own thing.
Yeah.
But it's scary. You don't know that if you do, like, if you leave you see everyone else doing a certain thing. You see everyone else living with tradition, with habits, and you know that if you do those things, you're going to end up like them.
Yeah. And
you're not going to, like, mess up, and you're not going to have failure. You're not going to, like you said, failure is scary.
Yeah.
And you're going to be safe. But if you go your own route, you don't know. It's the unknown. No one knows what you are like when you are yourself.
It's crazy, man.
Not even you necessarily.
Yeah.
And you're the only person that can go that road.
Yeah.
But
I love that, man. I'm so glad that you said that, because it's so true. And you had a great way of saying that. What about, like, you're not going to see the sunrise if you're inside your house?
Yeah.
Like that was great. I'm wondering, you talked about, like, hey, deviating from what inspires you, and like making something fresh and new. I don't know about you, but I'm personally in a place where it's just like every movie that I've heard about is good, I'm watching. Every movie that I've heard about is just terrible, I'm watching. Every album that I've heard is good, I'm listening to, or like that I'm curious about, or from this artist that I like. It's just like I'm absorbing so much content right now.
And isn't it crazy how, like, the movies that you thought were gonna, like, you heard so many bad things about, or you saw and you're like, I don't care about that, and then you finally go and watch it and you're like, oh my god, and like, this is amazing. Like,
this is so good. Or better yet, it's just like, oh, everyone said this was great, this is a piece of crap, this sucks, this is so bad, and I couldn't. Yeah, it's. Are you in a place right now where you're just absorbing? You know what I mean? Are you a sponge right now?
I'm not a sponge right now, but I've done that before. It's hard. I think it's hard. Like, you get in a mindset where you start sponging like that, and then you kind of lose it.
Yeah.
And I feel like. Is
it a phase for you?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I go in like these huge phases where, like, I'll go through what I do for music wise is, like, I'll listen to complete discographies.
Yeah.
That's how I got into Kanye.
That's how I do it as well, but yeah, go ahead.
I could not stand Kanye. And then one day I was like, all right, might as well go in. And I listened to all of his music. Yeah. Every single album, every single song. And I found so much from it. Like, I discovered a whole new like area of music, a whole new like inspiration.
For sure.
I never was interested in it.
Yeah.
I never cared.
Yeah.
I just had a friend that like really liked Kanye, and eventually I was like, I'm bored. I might as well try.
Might as well try it. Yeah.
And then from there, I realized, like, it's like you said, if you just sponge a lot, you'll find so much.
Well, and you'll learn what you'll learn what you are, and you'll learn what you like.
I think it's. I don't know what it is. I don't know if we're drawn. Obviously people are drawn to comfort, but I don't know if we're drawn to comfort or if we get just like worn out and like we have to like go home eventually. Because most of the time I listen to music, I'll just always go for the same. I'll go for Kendrick. I'll go for like the same artist over and over again.
Yeah.
And it takes effort for me to like go out and like try a bunch of new stuff. Even though I know I'm gonna get a lot out of listening to like new things.
Right.
There's this like resistance to doing that for me.
It's a good point, and for me, it comes a lot in film. Like
film's the same. Like I do the same thing with film. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. For me, I'm on Letterboxd a lot recently.
Letterboxd? Yeah, you guys. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I gotta get that.
Yeah, no worries. But I've been making lists just to like kind of organize and just get my thought processes for films and genre put together. And one list I made was specifically designed around the films that are like coming home. And what was interesting is like a lot of them, well, some of them were very intense, like The Shining. But here's the thing, like tell me you don't when you turn on The Shining and it's Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall and they're driving up or it's Jack Nicholson and like the little yellow bug.
Yeah.
He's driving up the mountainside and there's the ominous soundtrack. You turn off all the lights, you sit back in your comfiest chair, and then you put your headphones on and it's just like, yes, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna watch The Shining.
Yeah.
And or it's Blade Runner. It's Blade Runner when like the little tree comes like like animated in like the original, not 24.
You get lost in the movie.
Get lost in the movie immediately, and it's Fellowship when Galadriel starts giving you the background. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all those kind of like moments, and it's just like you talk about coming home. Like all those moments are just like I am, like especially when I'm not with like family and I'm out. Bringing it back to your repeated question of university is like when I'm out at university, I try to latch on to as many things that make me feel like I'm coming home again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And especially as someone who's like really tight with their family, and it's just like I need those things that make me feel like, okay, I'm sitting on my couch at home again, or I'm with my pets, or I'm with my friends, and it's like those things that those pieces of art that just bring me back to a time and a place again. I'm actually working on scripting either an episode of a podcast or a YouTube video or something like that. But during when I first came over here my freshman or sophomore year, my dad and we would like watch each other play Red Dead Redemption 2 a lot.
Oh yeah.
And that was like kind of how we connected once I moved out here. Is like he would say like, hey, I'm working on like trying to track down this animal, or it's just like, and it sounds like mundane, but it's just like, oh my gosh, there was a connection there because like I walked that path and I know that road, and it's like, that was a great piece of media. I'm not sure if you've ever played it.
I have. There's the mechanics in it where you can like roll and like,
it's so good.
It's fun.
It's cool so good. And just the amount of fun that can be had in that is wild. But yeah.
Owen, it's already been 2 hours.
I can't believe it, man. It feels like it's been 15 minutes.
This has been great.
Dude,
thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you, bro.
I hope everyone enjoyed this. Do you have anything else to say to our viewers, man? Any last pieces of advice for anyone trying to create? Anyone that's interested in music?
Oh man, dude. Well,
artists to check out.
First of all, again, gratitude to you, man. Thanks again for having me on. Subscribe, like, all that stuff. But yeah, dude, just thank you. Appreciate you.
Bro, no problem. Bye, everybody.